You're listening to the America4God podcast, the show that asks the question, where does God belong in the future of America? I'm your host, Daniel Gullo. Each week we interview passionate individuals to understand their viewpoints on current events and concerns about faith. The show is available on BitChute, Rumble, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube, and by visiting our website at www.america4god.com. Please consider donating by visiting our website, www.america4god.com. Episode 3, December 4th, 2020. Today on our show we have Earl Gibson III. Earl is a veteran of the United States Air Force, a patriotic, conservative supporter of America and our president, and most importantly, he is a passionate man of God and disciple of Christ. Earl, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother?
Got kicked off of LinkedIn.
You did too?
Yeah, well, I'm back now, but what's going on with that?
I don't know. Apparently I had some hate speech, whatever that is.
Yeah, I saw that. Where did that come from? What are they referencing? I didn't see the original stuff that you posted, so.
Yeah, I have no idea. I got the update about them. I guess they updated the terms of and conditions. So I was going through and I was reading it to figure out, what they updated and things like that. And then next thing I know, it refreshed and it kicked me out.
So they didn't even give you a post to say this is what the text was. No, nothing.
No. So the email that I sent was the one that they sent me.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
So it was like, yeah, you can't have hate speech. Hate speech is not okay towards anybody based on their ethnicity, race, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, those are the things that people bother me about. So, what are you talking about?
It's just so foolish because, they'll say, all right, well, you violated the terms of service and the professional community policies. And for me, what they did was they gave me 6 different posts. And those were all Gateway Pundit articles. I didn't even make a comment or anything, right? All I did was say, here's the article. So I'm just sharing it. And from, Gateway Pundit is a recognized news source. And so they said that was graphic and inappropriate content. And then later on, after I argued with them several different replies back and forth, finally the guy said, well, it's false content. I'm like, oh, okay. So you fact checked all these articles. So tell me, what about each article was incorrect or whatever, right? But he wasn't giving me anything.
Exactly. So that guy evidently, he was like, well, because he said in the email, he was like, there's going to be no further correspondence. I was like, well, you didn't give me anything. You didn't tell me nothing, so we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But, I'm not opposed to putting his name specifically on the lawsuit that we're looking at. So.
And that was that guy, Cody, right?
Yeah. Cody Murphy.
See, the problem with mine is, his name in the email is Daniel, right? But judging by the time zone, when they reply is in the middle of the night. So I'm thinking they're probably in Asia or over in the Ukraine or something. So the name that they're using is maybe false or different than their actual name. So I can't really pinpoint it.
Yeah, and that's why anybody who's asked me, I tell them, hey, ask for their first and last name and their employee ID. If they're lying, they're going to escalate the matter. So
this whole lawsuit thing, I think it's necessary. It's necessary. Something has to happen to set the precedent. There's got to be one big, case to kind of set the tone for all the rest of the social media platforms.
Yeah, and I agree, man. And I think LinkedIn has been kind of under the radar in regards to all the big tech companies, because most people look at Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that. But LinkedIn's kind of flown under the radar, and it even shows in their terms and conditions, man. They're old and they're outdated, and they're trying to apply these nonsensical things to these outdated policies that they have. Everything's based on perception. It's like, oh, it looked like you said something mean to somebody, so we're going to kick you off. And it's like, where's it show that at? Well, it can be read here, and I'm making a determination and that's it. It's like, well, that's not how that works. But
yeah. I mean, like I have a law degree. That's what I studied in college and stuff. And I'm like, you got to prove the case. You got to have evidence. If you're going to make some kind of a claim, any claim whatsoever, you got to back that up and, say here, this phrase right here goes against this policy, right? Um, but they're not doing that. They're just kind of, oh, I feel like banning this person or I feel like suspending this person. So,
And all the letters read the same. It's like we saw that you violated the terms and conditions, and now your appeal's not going through. And it's like, okay, well,
we'll get back to you in 14 days.
Send a picture of your driver's license and stuff. I think they were doing that just to try and get information on us and find out who we were, so that way they could ban us.
Because then, yeah, like I got suspended permanently back in 2019 in March, and they weren't budging on that one. What happened was when the Mueller report came out, and it was like nothing, I posted on LinkedIn, well, here's a list of all the people that should be publicly executed for treason. And I didn't say it, but I was citing 18 USC 2381 about treason, right? And it says right in there, $10,000 fine or punishable by death and so on. And I obviously didn't mean, hey, let's all get together and lynch these people. I meant obviously, following due process and the Fourth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment and everything else. But I went back and forth with them on that, and they're like, no, we're not going to give you your account back. Check this out. The Secret Service came to my house because, like, one of the people I mentioned was President Obama, ex-President Obama, former President Obama. I'm like, and the Secret Service came to my house, and they're saying, so what did you mean by this and what did you mean by that? I'm like, dude, I wasn't meaning we should all get together. I said, according to the Constitution, this should happen, right? And so they're like, oh, okay, it's your First Amendment right to say that stuff, but they're like, we gotta follow up on all these leads.
Oh, really? Do you really have to follow up? Okay.
Well, I can attest to the fact that black folks aren't the only ones that are getting visits by law enforcement.
Oh man, I thought that was only our thing. According to the news, it's only us. But yeah, I hope it's I'm praying for good things with the lawsuit, because we do, man. We got to make an example out of somebody.
Right. But other than that, I mean, how are you doing, dude?
I'm fine, man. I'm good. I mean, I'm a little irritated with it. It's especially over nonsense. Especially when you have people like what's her name, Madison Butler, saying the ridiculous stuff that she says every week, about conservative people, and it's like ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a standard that's equally applied to everybody.
Yeah, it's not.
It's funny because we have all these companies saying, bring your full self to work, right? Be who you are and all that. So, I mean, LinkedIn's definitely behind the times because they're not following that same kind of cultural directive of allowing people to have an opinion. It's foolish to think that you can separate your personal beliefs, your political beliefs and religious beliefs and so on from your work life. Right. And it should be okay for everyone to be themselves and express their opinions and stuff.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, man. And being a vet, people have the right to say whatever they want to say, and if I don't want to hear it, I'm not going to listen to it. I mean, I'm not going to try and shut them down because I simply disagree with it. I have the option to listen or to not listen, or to block them or to mute them so I don't see their stuff. I mean, it's not hard, and that's what this is in the terms and conditions, that we're responsible for that. If we don't like something, we're responsible to mute that person or to block them or to do that thing. It doesn't say, yeah, we need to remove them from the platform. It doesn't say any of that.
That's how it should be. They're trying to play both sides of that, be a public square and be a curator of content. And in the middle of it, they need to pick a side.
Yeah.
If they're going to be public square, then to your point, right, everybody's got to put on their big boy pants and block people and take accountability for their own feed. And I think that's the way it should be, right? If somebody says something you don't like, you just like block that person, right? Or disable the notifications for that post if you like what they normally say, but they're just being an idiot on one post or something. Then Yeah, whatever. The whole idea of having meaningful discourse and discussion these days is just gone.
Yeah, it's one side. One side wants to dominate the conversation. They claim that, and it's funny because they're the main side that preaches diversity and inclusion and everybody having a voice and all this love and all that stuff. But they're like the total opposite of all that. They're intolerant, and they're aggressive and immature and unprofessional.
Yeah, and there's definitely a couple people on there that I won't name a name, but this one person, it's like all over their profile, it's plastered. It's my mission or my vision to make LinkedIn all about professionalism, and then when I got let back on LinkedIn, they were saying Daniel Gold has only been back for like 3 hours and already he's made 10 posts.
Oh yeah, I remember you posting that. Yeah.
So it's definitely targeted harassment by certain people.
There were people out there who were just saying that it didn't matter what I would say or what I would post. They would go through and try and report it or whatever. And I did my due diligence and block those people. Follow the rules of LinkedIn. Block them, report them. Nothing happened to them.
Yeah, I'm doing that too. I'm not messing around anymore. I used to let people camp out on my threads and make their idiotic comments and stuff, but not anymore. Once I don't even argue anymore. If somebody posts something like, well, this is not Facebook, it's LinkedIn, I just basically delete that comment and then block them right away.
Yeah, I started blocking based on their whatever area they lived in. So if they're Canadian, I would block them. If they're from California, I would block them.
San Francisco, boom.
Yeah, I would block them instantly, man, because it's you could just tell. I would try and give them the opportunity, but it's like so much stupid stuff is coming from the same areas where it's like, no, I'm just gonna block you.
Where did you grow up?
So I grew up overseas, man. I grew up in Spain, Japan, and Alaska.
Okay. Was your family military then?
Yeah, so I'm second generation Air Force. Yeah, I've been exposed to a lot of different cultures and things like that. More so than a lot of people here, stateside. It's just ridiculous to me. People only see their block or whatever, and they make assumptions of everybody based on the area that they live in. Like I've noticed when it comes to this whole racism thing, it's more prevalent up north than it is here down south. Like we don't. I mean, yeah, there are racist people everywhere, but as far as people getting along, we have no issues getting along with people down here. In Texas, it's pretty much, hey, you mind your business, I'll mind mine. Don't make me do anything I don't want to do, and I'm gonna leave you alone. And that's it. But it's like when I talk to especially black people who are like from the northern parts and stuff like that, it's like, no, you have to agree with this because we're all oppressed. And I'm like, no, we're not. Shut up. It's irritating, man.
Yeah, I don't get it myself. I grew up in Orange County, California. And, in back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that was like it's a super affluent area, right? I mean, my family was not really affluent, but we grew up in that area. And it's just funny because the high school we went to, all the people who are super loaded now, it seems like they've all turned uber left. I'm like, where did that come from? I mean, your family grew up with all this money and now you're like bleeding heart liberal. I don't get it.
It's like they wanna embrace the struggle, which I don't get. They're like, oh yeah, black people, we got it hard in this country. I'm like, do we really? Do we? I can get preference over schools, jobs, all kinds of things just because I'm a different color, which is I think is ridiculous. But to say that there's a struggle, tied to that, I don't want to believe that at all. I don't. I think it's stupid.
Yeah, and I'm not making a statement about black or whatever, but I've been throughout the United States pretty much. I've traveled a lot myself, having been in the military and moved around for after college for different jobs and so on. But it was a real eye opener for me to go to like China and India, and I'm like, dude, nobody in this country has any problems whatsoever. I mean, you go over to India and you got people driving the wrong way down the road. You got a 5 or 6 person family on one motorcycle, just stacked up and all kinds of craziness. So I'm like, they just make things happen. And they're some of the happiest people. You go to India, everybody's like, driving around in their motor scooters and everything else. And so we come back here and people are complaining, oh my gosh, that guy cut me off on the freeway or whatever. And it's like ruining their day. I think people need to get out more and see what the rest of the world is like. And then you'd be like, yeah, I have no complaints.
Yeah, man, we're privileged here. It's a privilege, just being American, and they need to realize that. It's like you realize there are people who are dying trying to get into this country. There's a reason for that. If the country's so terrible, then you can leave anytime you want to. You're not rooted to the United States. You're not a tree. You can get up and leave anytime you want to. You can go anywhere you want. But good luck though, because the things that you're doing here, you're not going to be able to do in some countries. So good luck with that.
Remember that time when there was always people fleeing capitalism so they could go to like Venezuela and live,
Stand in line for bread and things like that. And
it's just not happening.
Yeah, so I got a buddy of mine, man. He lives in my neighborhood, and he's from Nigeria, and he's been here about 2 years. And he was telling me about Nigeria. He was like, yeah, he's like, the corruption is prevalent there in the country. Everybody knows about it, but you say something about it, they'll literally kill your entire family. But I mean, we don't have those issues here in the United States. People say, stupid stuff all the time, and they're entitled about it. But yeah, all the stuff that's going on here, and we were talking for like 45 minutes, and he was like, yeah, he's like, all these protests and stuff. He was like, the soldiers would just come and just slaughter everybody. He's like, because we're not putting up with that. He's like, you can't do that. That's part of the reason why he moved to the United States, because of that reason. It's like, yeah, all these protests and stuff, and people mad and burning down buildings. He's like, no. He's like, the soldiers would come and they would just slaughter anybody who was out there protesting, and then just burn the bodies.
And people are saying, oh, Trump is so fascist and blah, blah, blah. If he were fascist, the first protest, he would have just done that, what you're saying, right? He would have mowed everybody down with machine guns or something.
We have the ability to, and my thing on it, man, I'm like, do you guys really want a rising from the people who are like far, far right? Do you really want those people coming out of their bunkers and stuff? I don't. No, thank you. I'm good.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some, really super extreme folks out there that are, you catch them on different platforms talking about stuff. And I'm just like, okay, man. Have you ever seen that movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas?
No, I haven't.
Okay. He works for the Department of Defense and he loses his job, and he's like this really nerdy guy, and he just gets out of his car on the freeway in Los Angeles and walks away. And what he's trying to do is get to his daughter's birthday. But there's this one part where he goes to like an army surplus store, and there's this total whack job, right? Total Nazi guy. And he's like, what kind of vigilante are you? And he's like, I'm not a vigilante. I'm nothing like you. Right. So I'll be out there on, Parler or Gab or these other platforms, and people will text me and stuff and say, I'm like you. We're alike. I'm like, no, you're some kind of crazy, you're just lost your mind. That's not me at all. I want unity. I want all of us to be together. I don't care about color or whatever. Let's make America great. I mean, I really believe together, let's do it.
Yeah, man. I'm big on everybody just getting along. I mean, and not bothering. And it's not a hard concept. It's like, look, you have the same rights I do. You don't infringe on my rights. I won't infringe on yours. I don't care what you want to do, what you want to be. Who you're living your life as. I don't care. But don't try and change laws to make me care. That's when I have a problem. When you're going through and you're trying to legislate me liking you. You can't legislate people liking people. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to tolerate it. You're not going to make me like somebody and put up with stuff I don't want to.
No, one thing though, I think might be worthwhile for us to make military service required.
I agree with that.
Tell me more about your thoughts on that.
I agree, man. I think that there should be like a mandatory service commitment from people, at least 2 years. I mean, with the 2-year service, commitment, it's not hard to do 2 years in the military. At least you'll be disciplined. And from the 2 years, you can decide if you want to just go, the full 4 years, the 6 years, or if you want to retire or whatever you want to go from there. But I know even countries like Israel, they have a mandatory, military service It works out great. It breeds a different generation of people. Because when people come out of high school, man, they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea. They're trying to figure it out while they're in college, and it's easy to indoctrinate those people. That's why you have a lot of college idiots out here, running around screaming about oppression. And it's like, you realize you're in college, right? You're in college and you're talking about you're oppressed. Really?
Free room, free board.
Exactly.
Mommy and daddy paying for everything.
Like you drove to the college campus in a $30,000 car, and you got $5,000 worth of books in your backpack, and you got a $1,100 laptop that you're doing your homework on, and $1,000 phone, and you're oppressed. Okay, all right.
Like when I graduated high school, I was blessed to get right into college, but then I acted like an idiot, and all I wanted to do was party, and I ended up getting kicked out, and my folks were paying for stuff, and like I said, my folks didn't have a whole lot of money. My dad scraped together to send us off to college. And then I was horrible. I just wasted all his money. But then it got to the point where he's like, look, I'm cutting you off, right? You're not serious about this or anything. And I had nowhere to go. I had no marketable skills or anything. So I said, well, I'm going to go join the Navy. And this is around the time of Desert Storm. And so I was in for a couple of years during Desert Storm. But that experience really, it really literally whipped me into shape and taught me what life was all about. And I came out of there a man. And then, I didn't even bother to go back to my folks and say, hey, could you help me pay for college? I'm like, no, I'm going to do this myself. And then I was making straight A's the whole rest of the time because I had pride and responsibility.
Yeah, man, it's a different mentality. And I went to the military right out of high school. My dad, he worked at the MEPS, and they did the testing and stuff like that. So when it came to graduating, he was like, look, man, he's like, your grades are, you're kind of lazy with your grades, so I don't think the college is going to be a road you're going to be going down, not right now, but I'm going to take you to work with me. So he took me to work with him. I had a little waiver because I enlisted when I was actually 16, and then I swore in, when I was 17. So I graduated in 2000. I was 16 when I graduated. I turned 17 July of 2000, and then November of 2000, I was here in San Antonio, Texas at boot camp. So right out of high school, man, right out of high school. I worked during the summertime, so I didn't get to, hang out during the summer or anything like that. It was mostly getting my weight down so I can go to basic training. So that was it. That was it, and it, put me in a position where I had to grow up. And I think that, I think that'll be beneficial for a lot of these kids out there, making it mandatory.
Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, they're paying for the freedom that they've enjoyed and will enjoy by staying in the country. I mean, in this country, make that a way of earning some of their college money, right? And that'll be a burden off the parents. The parents would be like happy to say, oh yeah, my kid's in the Army or the Marine Corps or whatever. And, the first couple of years of college are free after they get out or something, right?
Yeah, it'd be nice, man. That sounds like a good plan. Of course, we got lawmakers that probably wouldn't go for it. They just want everything to be free and, magic money coming out the air, however that works.
Everything's free.
Everything. Yeah, free school, free healthcare, free everything. Just free. And I really think that, and this is just my feeling, I think that, once, and I mentioned in the chat, I think that once President Trump wins re-election, I think that, all the gloves are coming off.
Yeah, it's going to get ugly one way or the other. Either, like you said, I mean, I feel Trump's going to win, but let's just, for argument's sake, say he doesn't win. Either he's going to win and things are going to get ugly, because people won't accept it, or they're going to say, well, we're going to totally turn up the volume and start attacking people, or Biden's going to win and they're going to be totally emboldened and overconfident, and they're going to say, well, now we got, look at us now, we got the president on our side and everything else, and they're going to turn up the volume. So either way, we're looking at some tough times coming.
Yeah, I think when Trump wins, I think that it's going to work out really bad for them. You know, I think it's going to be really, really bad for them. Because I mean, even just looking at the videos that they don't want to post when these protesters are going to like these suburbs of like even suburbs of like Portland, and they're going out there and just getting mollywopped by the residents, in the community, and they're like, no, keep that in Portland, don't bring that out here. And that's the same here, in Texas. It's like, okay, well, you guys are doing, all your craziness up there in Austin, which is only 45 minutes from here, but they're not coming here to San Antonio at all. They're not. They're not making that 45, they're not making that 45-minute drive here to San Antonio. It's not going to happen.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, we got 5 different military bases here in San Antonio, so real conservative. We have some liberal idiots around here, but for the most part, yeah, they don't want that smoke.
Yeah, I think once Trump wins, he's, right now a lot of people are saying, well, why don't you declare the Insurgency Act and, pull in the DHS and the military and everything else to quash all these uprisings and violent terrorist acts and such. But I'm like, well, there's an election. If he invoked the Insurgency Act, then that would have an impact on his ability to be reelected. But I think once he takes office, or once he is reelected and so on, he's not going to play anymore. He's just going to drop the hammer.
Yeah, and they've been going through arresting some of the protesters and stuff. A lot of the leaders of Antifa, they've been going through quietly arresting them. And it's been going under the radar. And I believe that they're snitching. They're snitching out people where they're getting money from. So when I watch Trump, it's like, this man, he knows what's going on. He knows. And even like you look at AG Barr, and AG Barr is like, yeah, we understand. Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, it's all good. No, we're good. And it's like you can tell that they're kind of waiting on something. It's like once that win is locked in, I really think that some mayors are going to be recalled and arrested. I think that some governors are going to be recalled and arrested, and protesters, because I mean that contact tracing is out there. It's still out there. And remember who brought it. The conservatives didn't bring contact tracing. It was the liberals who wanted all that, for this COVID-19. So you guys brought it up on yourselves. So you're wondering how, the federal government is able to track you guys down and how they know that you were out there protesting. Well, now you know. You should have turned your location off on your phone. But yeah, I think that's going to happen. And I think the protections that these tech giants have, I think that's going to be gone as well. I think that there's nothing going to be there to protect them from lawsuits and things like that. Because the advantage that they use, they like to go by like California. So they go by California law and California liberal judges and things. And that's where they take it at their courts and stuff when they're handling lawsuits, which helps them out because they win. But now if you can file lawsuits in other states where there's conservative judges, like here in Texas, I file a lawsuit here in Texas against that company out there, then we have to handle it here in Texas, and it's not going to go on their side. So I think things like that are positive.
Yeah, that and Trump, he's been putting judges in place to change the makeup of the circuit courts, like the Ninth Circuit Court, which is notorious for its rendering its decisions and opinions and such. So yeah, he'll have another four years of changing the landscape there, and possibly another 2 Supreme Court appointees maybe.
It'll be awesome, man. But I know we got to win. We got to win local elections as well, because that's where it really affects people's households, is at the local level. So people need to vote for better mayors, better city council, school boards, and things like that. People got to get involved in it. Even if they're not voting, they need to get involved. It's imperative that they get involved in the local elections, because those are the most important ones, and they overlook them. And that's I think that Republicans, they need to focus more on local elections, because they just kind of gloss over it and not worry about it. And it's like, well, you wonder why these people are getting into the Senate and stuff, because they started at city council and at school board level, and they just worked their way up. And you just sat back and watched it happen because you were only worried about, the 3% of black people that you need. It's like you guys realize you have like an untapped market of people who you can reach. Like people like me, like I'm not voting Democratic, but unless I know who the Republican is, I'm probably not going to participate in voting at all. And it's like there's millions of people that you're missing out on because of that reason. So you might want to, spend some money, reach those people, reach that demographic of people, and find out, hey, what can we do? Because I mean, even if you just go for policies, just policies itself will bring most people over. But we don't know. We don't know who you are. And it was like that with Kimberly Klacik when she first started. People didn't know who she was. But once she started getting out, and actually spending money to reach those people, and then started introducing the policies, people were like, well, yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you're saying. It's like, well, you obviously agree, so you don't need to vote the other way because they don't care. And that's why our commercial was so effective, because it pointed it all out. It's like, look, you agree with what I'm saying, but the people you're voting for have been doing this. So maybe you need to, review what you're doing.
Like it's a shell game or, 3-card Monty. Here, we'll tell you this, but then we'll give you this, right? So, but Kim is great, man. I've seen a lot of her commercials and read her posts, and I think she's exactly what Baltimore needs, in terms of representation in Congress. So I'm really pulling for her, and I wish we had more Kim Klasiks around. Like I live in Pennsylvania now, in Southeast PA. We get an overflow of blue from Philly, but the rest of the state is pretty much red. And I know, where I live out in the country here in Amish land, everybody, you see Trump stickers and flags and everything everywhere, right? And it's big truck country and all that, like kind of like Texas. But the way we're carved up, the counties and the districts and stuff, there's a huge amount of population to the east towards Philly that's swaying our district to blue. It really needs to be redistrict or recarved up somehow.
And I think they're sneaky about that. Going through and doing the districts and stuff, because that's stuff that they vote on that we would never even know about it. Like, yeah, we're gonna redistrict this area, and it's like I didn't even know that. Like where I'm at now in San Antonio, so I'm outside the city limits. I'm in the county, but I'm outside the city limits. So as far as my state representative is Will Hurd, and so we got Will Hurd, we got Cruz, we got Castro, we got Sheila Jackson. So it's like, you're looking at them, it's like, man, and Will Hurd's talking about retiring. It's like, well, who's going to get his seat? We're definitely trying to keep it red because there's been an influx of blue at the local levels. Like if you look at all the mayors of all the major cities here in Texas, they're liberal-minded, mayors. We got the one here in San Antonio, Nuremberg, whatever his name is. And then you got Mr. Defund the Police up in Austin, and then Dallas and Houston as well. They're all kind of left-leaning. So it's like you gotta change this at city levels, man. So I'm definitely looking into it myself. Running for city council or school board. I just need to get my feet wet and raise some hell. Is really what the plan is. I want them to legit be afraid that I will show up where they're at and fight them. They're trying to get dirty with politics. Like, I want them to think that.
I think you should run, man. Why not? You got nothing to lose, right? Get out there and kick some butt and yeah. At least with Texas, you guys have a conservative governor still.
Yeah, man, he's a rhino. He takes 10 steps forward and 18 back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man. He's big on these mask mandates and stuff like that, and slowly opening businesses and all that. He does all these things that are like anti-Texan, but then and even selling like some of the land here to China. I'm like, what are you doing? Like he sold land to China, so it's like he'll take 10 steps back and 10 steps forward and 18 back, because he'll do all that stuff, and then he'll turn around and to the Austin mayor who's defunding the police, he was like, oh, we're not having that here in Texas. you're not going to defund the police here. Well, I'll take it over. And it's like, yeah, good. It's like, all right.
I know he was pretty tough on the mayor of Austin too, on the homelessness and, clean up the city. Otherwise, I'm going to bring people down here to do it for you.
And he's like, oh, yeah, you guys want to protest and tear up the Capitol. Yeah, you guys have the right to do that. It's like, really, dude? They're protesting in front of your house and you're not doing nothing about it.
If Texas goes, the whole nation's going to go, because Texas is like, historically, it's like the last holdout of the last bastion of conservative thought, right? So you guys got to hold it together, man, down there.
Man, tell them to stop moving here from California.
Yeah, right. Well, my brother moved to Austin from California, but I mean, he's just as red as we are, and he doesn't live in the Austin city limits. He lives more out, in the outskirts. So, but yeah, he tells me stories all the time of what's going on in Austin and the city area.
And they're an island, man. They're surrounded by conservative cities. Austin is, because I mean we're a major city, but like outside of Austin, the areas outside of Austin are like smaller towns, and gun carrying, truck driving, rednecks out there in those areas around Austin. So it's like, you guys are okay in Austin doing all that nonsense, but once you step outside of Austin, though, we don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it'd be like Oregon. And the same is true up in Washington too. It's like around Seattle and Redmond and that whole area. That's like the tech corridor. I don't know what it is about tech, man. It's like, when back in the day, I mean, you even see stuff that Steve Wozniak talks about today. He's like, I don't support all of this uber left leaning liberalism. Back in the day, we were fighting against the man, with Apple, and we were fighting for free speech for everybody, not just, left leaning folks. And so he's not down with all the censorship and everything else that's happening. But I don't know what it is about tech that draws all the, super liberal folks, because we're definitely a minority in the tech industry as conservatives.
They can control a lot of things, man.
I am finding that conservatives who are in tech don't want to talk about it, because they don't want to be outed, as a conservative.
Well, I mean, when you look at the personality of most people who are involved in tech, most of them are introverts. They're introverts. They just want to come do their job and go home. Don't bother me. Leave me alone. Yeah, I'm talking to you because we're working on a project together, but once this project's over, leave me alone.
I think some of it is rooted maybe in, to work in tech, you have to have a really open mind. You have to be able to say, okay, well, if this isn't possible, then maybe this is possible. And there could be like 30 different ways to get to the solution you're looking for. And so then you start to develop this, well, any way the wind blows is okay, right? This moral relativism type of approach or mindset. Maybe that's where it comes from. I don't know.
Yeah, I think conservatives are more like the project managers of the tech world. We're like, no, this is what we're doing. This is how it needs to get done because it's been proven it works this way.
This is the way.
I like you guys' input. I appreciate it. Everybody's gonna have input, but that doesn't work. You got to have facts. I don't care about your feelings. We're not gonna meet for 15 minutes about how you feel about something.
But it's surprising. I mean, it was shocking about Nevada, and how blue they've become over the years, because Nevada used to be a really red state with conservative, I mean, in spite of the gambling industry and so on, and legalized prostitution and all that down in Vegas. Overall, the city and the state itself was pretty red.
Again, them Californians, man. That whole West Coast, the people who were like on the Pacific Coast, they start migrating inland. They take their ideals with them to whatever state they go to, and try and change it. They're like, oh yeah, I hate higher taxes, but I'm gonna vote for somebody who's gonna bring higher taxes. It's like,
yeah, it doesn't make any sense. They flee California because of stuff like that, and then they make wherever they're going to into California.
They've trashed Austin, man. Austin's trash. The homeless population is ridiculous. The housing prices are ridiculous. Obviously the belief system is ridiculous, and Like I hate that city. I hate it. There's always traffic for no reason, and the people up there are weird for no reason, and it's ridiculous. It's like they try. It's like they're trying to be weird. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it.
Once America started kicking God out of the equation, that's the problem.
It's another reason why they hate Trump, because he's bringing it back.
Is he the perfect man? No, but he's the perfect man for the job.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't, I don't support him. I already have a pastor. He's the president. Vote for him to be the president, not the pastor of the United States of America. So, I don't expect him to, know every Bible verse. The fact that he acknowledges God and, he prays in Jesus' name, and, he's not afraid to, support, the church and, a relationship with Christ. I support the man for that. I do. And bringing prayer back in schools was a big one for me. Saying that, yeah, you can pray in school. Nobody gonna tell you can't pray in school. Because I remember, being in school and be like, man, we can't pray or nothing. And it's like, and this was in the 2000s, the early 2000s. It's like, man, you can't pray in school. What kind of nonsense is this? Year after year after year, and all this has been just kind of a culmination. And it was like a shock factor. I think that's what it was with President Trump. I think it was a shock factor for a lot of people because they've been living in sin for so long that you're faced with accountability. And it's like, oh, whoa, those demons start acting up and getting mad about it. And that's what you're seeing, man. It's just a manifestation of a demonic activity.
Yeah, I definitely think there's something satanic and Luciferian and evil about the left. I mean, it's not that just that we don't agree on issues. I mean, stuff like that Cuties movie. And I mean, it's so blatantly obvious. Netflix has a show called Lucifer.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not even hiding it anymore, right?
Yeah, they have a lot. They have a lot of demonic shows, man. And you'll see them like they'll preview them, and you'll see all those demonic shows. Now they're just flat out, yeah, like you said, Lucifer.
There it is.
We'll make a show about Lucifer. Oh, okay.
So yeah, I mean, is it any wonder that we have all these problems in our nation if we're losing sight of God and those things that are good and wholesome and pure and I think we've really instilled in people, especially millennials and so on, the idea that they're entitled to something. Like everyone can be a rock star, so let's have this American Idol. Oh, I don't have to work hard or anything. I'll just sing and they'll make me a millionaire, like Miley Cyrus or Beyonce or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, people who literally sold their souls, for that fame. And it's, if you look at these superstars now, they all did the same thing. They all sold their souls. They all compromised. Whether delving into satanic rituals or homosexuality or whatever they're messing with and playing with, and it's all demonic, and you can see it on them. There's no reason for some of these people to be superstars, and you're looking at them, you're like, man, his whole face is tatted up, and he's not saying nothing in the song.
And it's sad because I mean, you watch these TikTok videos, right? And everyone thinks they're the next Justin Bieber. Oh, look at me, I'm so cool. It's the me show. It's just kind of sad.
It's ridiculous, man. But yeah, I just continue to focus on God and just live by the word and try everything by the word, because now we live in a society where evil is good and good is evil. Anything you say positive and anything you say about God, oh no, how dare you? You're minoritizing me, and you're an isist or whatever, whatever term they want to come up with, instead of just calling evil. And that's another problem I noticed, man. People don't just want to call evil, because if they do, they have to acknowledge good, and God is good, and they have to acknowledge that, but they don't want to acknowledge it. They want to have isms for everything. You're a misogynist, you're a racist, you're a sexist. It's like, no, there's just some evil people out there, because the Prince of Darkness runs the world. He's in the world. The devil's in the world. That's it. But guess what? If you turn to God, you won't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Oh no, I can't do that. He's just racist. Like, no, man,
he's racist.
Yeah.
God is racist. That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, and it really, nobody wants to humble themselves. Everyone wants to be the king of the kingdom of me, right? Instead of bowing down before Jesus and acknowledging his deity and his lordship and acknowledging that God is the ruler of everything.
Yeah, they can't do that. No, No, it's got to be something else. It's whatever psychology says at the time, or whatever it says in some book. Every book but the Bible.
Right. Like you must be weak because you're a Christian and you need to, you need that crutch, mental crutch or something, right?
It's like, oh yeah, religion's for weak people. Well, for me, it's not a religion. It's a relationship. I have a relationship with Christ. It's not about religion. Like I was saying, everything that's happening is in the Bible. And people wonder, what, like, some of the things that I do, because I do like to read, and everything I read, it's in the Bible. Like, literally, if you want to know anything about anything from finances to relationships, it's in the Bible. But everybody wants to read every other book except for the Bible. They don't want to. It's like a mirror. It's going to make you see, what's inside of you. And if you see what's inside of you, you're accountable, for that. You're accountable for having to change. And if people don't want to change, they're comfortable being who they are, doing what they're doing, living how they're living. And, they get mad at us as Christians because we show them that accountability, that they're not being accountable, that they're not living right. Because they're not comfortable around people like us. They're not. You have a conversation with somebody who's, they don't believe in God or don't have a relationship with God, or used to have a relationship with God, and they're around people who are actively, living, God's word, they're uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable. So they react emotionally because they don't know. And it's not them, it's what's inside of them that's acting like that, that's acting out.
Holy Spirit convicting them.
Exactly.
They're being convicted.
Yeah. And we don't even have to say anything.
We're just there.
And you're like, man, I didn't even do nothing to you. What's your problem with me? I don't know. It's just something about you.
You're so judgmental. You're like, all I did was look at you. All I did was say hi. You judge me.
How dare you judge me? The Bible says thou shalt not judge. Like, the Bible doesn't say that. That's not exactly what the Bible says. Do you really want to know what the Bible says about judgment? Because you don't want to know. Like, I'm not the judge that you have to worry about.
I'm just the messenger.
Exactly.
The judge is coming.
I'm just here to tell you what's going on. You might not like where you're going.
I'm like the bailiff.
Yeah.
Here to announce the judge.
That's it, man. It's imperative that we have that relationship, with God. It's imperative. So it's either we're in a position now where it's if you're going to live for Christ, you have to. If you're not, you're not. Then don't play with it. It's not a time to play around with it right now. You're going to be on one side of the fence or another, because the way things are looking now, man, it's anytime.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and practice my rapture jump, man, because it's.
Yeah, like any second, it could happen. And I am encouraged, though, about one thing I want to, share positive before we end is I am seeing some good things. Like on Facebook, there's a group of people that gets together, and we don't even talk about anyone's origins or what they really believe in. All it is a group that says, hey, we're going to pray for the president. And I wish I could go back to 2008 and so on, because even though I didn't really care for Obama, I would be willing to pray for him because he is the leader of our country. That's an undisputable fact. If he gets elected, then he's going to be in charge. And it would be stupid not to pray that he makes good decisions and so on. So the same is true with Trump, man. I mean, whether you like the man or not, you should be praying that he follows the will of God and makes good decisions, right? So.
Yeah, and that he's surrounded with good people. That at least there's somebody who's believes in Christ, that is surrounded by him, and he seems to be surrounded by people who have a relationship with Christ, and that's, for me, man, that's encouraging. When you see people speaking like the RNC, the people who are speaking there and they're professing their relationship with Christ, I was like, man, he has some good people around him.
Definitely, yeah. So I have a hope. I have a lot of high hopes for the election and for the next 4 years. And, I pray about it daily and multiple times throughout the day. And I'm sure you do too. And it's good to meet other brothers like you and in the Lord, and that care about our country and aren't afraid to take a stand for what's right. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it's to the point we have to, we got to. It's not something we can be quiet about, and we got to be bold, be bold about our walk. And it's, for me, it's a position where it's like they're not gonna like me anyway, because it's the world. They're not supposed to like me, So while they're not liking me, let me go ahead and put them on Front Street a little bit. That's fine. Let me go ahead and make them really mad. give them a reason not to like me. I mean, they're not gonna like me anyway. You know, I just say, you know, God is good, and they, you know, they're all mad about it. But okay, well, you know, let's see why you guys are really mad. You know, God is good, and you have to have a relationship with Him. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna be eternally separated from Him. You know, and that's what the Bible says. Regardless, it doesn't matter how good of a person you are. You know, if you don't have a relationship, you know, when it comes down to it, we all have to face judgment. Every last one of us by ourselves. You know, we have to stand in front of Him by ourselves, and you know he's gonna have that screen up, and it's gonna show us everything that we've ever done.
It's not the healthy that need a doctor.
Yep, I want to make sure that, you know, my name's in both books, and I want to make sure that anybody I come in contact with that doesn't have a relationship, I want to, you know, introduce them, you know, to Jesus Christ, and make sure that their names are written in the books as well. Because I feel bad if, you know, I knew somebody, you know, passed away and I don't know about their relationship, you know, with God. So, and it's our job, you know, while we're here, you know, our job's to, you know, to preach the gospel and to get the gospel out. And, you know, one plants, you know, one waters, but it's got to give the increase. So, either I'm going to be in a position of planting those seeds, or I'm going to be in a position of watering the seeds. But, you know, I have a job to do, and, you know, I'm going to do that while I'm here.
That's awesome, man. Well, hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. And, you know, we're going to stay in touch online and stuff. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right, brother. Take care.
I appreciate you, man.
All right. Peace.
Later.
You've been listening to the America for God podcast. Please consider donating by visiting our website, www.america4god.com. Don't forget to like us on free speech platforms Parler, Gab, Codias, Mealy, Magabook, and Mine. Also, spread the word among your friends and family. As Jesus said in Matthew 18:20, "For where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I among them." Have a blessed rest of your day.